What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. It's a 4-game slate. A lot of times we're not here on 4-game slates, but apparently DraftKings is listening to feedback earlier in the season, and they dropped some big old GPPs here tonight. So they have a 444 with 50K to first. They have a $5 150 max with 50K to first or 25K, something like that. They have a nice 33 with 5 figures to first. I like it. I love it. Got to have more of it. So we'll be here for that kind of stuff. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to FanDuel for running a satellites to your Super Deke for 3 weeks and then making it a single entry on accident and then not fixing it. So congrats to you guys. Need a prayer tonight. Bankroll about to be dry. I'm going to tip my dealer. Don't worry. I'll take care of the daily deposit frostbacks in our chat. Tim McGraw. Look, Clayton. You're a Southern boy, so you get the reference. Last night was a weird one. Because, on a big slate, you can, have multiple paths to victory, and there kind of was, but there wasn't one line that really smashed. There wasn't a goalie that smashed until Philip Gustafsson hit the empty net goal. Edmonton was okay. Tampa was okay. Dallas was kind of disappointing. Nashville was kind of disappointing. Matvei Michkov had a couple goals. Florida, Columbus were okay. Nothing crazy. So it was kind of not the best slate for me. I don't know how you did, but we bounced back tonight.
Yeah, because yesterday on the show, we were kind of assuming that Dallas with Maverick Bourque back would be running Johnston, Hintz, and Robertson on the top line, and they did. And we got that late swap in early, or I guess that line in early. Unfortunately, they didn't really do a whole lot. I only caught the first period. Until late in the period when they got a power play, they honestly didn't look that good. And that Johnston, Hintz, and Robertson line had 0 high danger attempts for and 2 against last night. And they ran even by shots for and against at home against San Jose. Not a really good performance from Dallas. So they hurt. But yeah, no line last night had the highest scoring line, was the Philly line. Michkov, Frost, Tippett. Michkov had half the points. He had over 30 on DraftKings. That line had 61. No other line had over 55. So there wasn't a top line that necessarily smashed, but Dallas didn't do it for me. Jordan Binnington certainly didn't do it for me in net. So we move on. We look forward to this 4-game slate here tonight.
I used Juicy Sorrow, so that was even worse than Binnington. I had Vasilevsky in. I don't think it would have mattered, so we can move on. Tonight we have a nice 4-gamer. We have Matthews, we have McKinnon. We have Buffalo getting Paterka back. Willie Nylander needs John Tavares' amulet to play tonight. And then, Pittsburgh's on the slate. They're a team. We are a team. We should get into this slate. Before we do, just want to give you guys a shout out for supporting us with the affiliate signups. You can click the link in the chat. Sign up using Stochastic 15. That will get you 15% off weekly or monthly, your first weekly or monthly. We also have NBA packages dropping. I believe the first slate is either Monday or Tuesday. You can use promo code TIPOFF24 to get the first. You get it for $1 until the 29th, I believe. Also, promo code everything will get you 10% off all Sims-related content forever, basically, until you decide to cancel. So if you are interested in that, click the affiliate link in the chat. Sign up for that. Use the promo codes. Thank you guys very much. Mitchkoff, goat or king. That's a king. He's looked good. So I'll be honest, I was a bit worried coming into the season for him with Torts, but Torts seems to have a nice leash for him. So hopefully that continues because he looks like a very fun player. But we should get into this slate. 4 games to break down. First game of the night, we have Buffalo and Pittsburgh. This game is in Pittsburgh. Looks like JJ Peterka will be back for Buffalo after suffering a concussion in Europe. The power play units are still very wonky. And the Buffalo beat writers are like, oh, they're 0-4 or whatever. They have to try something. How about you get Peterka back and you try what you came into the season with instead of panicking after 2 games? Just my opinion.
One game he got hurt in game 2.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I like Zach Benson. He is not ready for that role next to Tage Thompson. So Peterka, Tuck, Thompson coming straight on their top 2 stack ownership or top 2 stack percentage at 15.6% ownership. For a 4-gamer, honestly, that's not too bad. They're going to go out against Malkin, Bunting, and Raquel, or Malkin, Bunting, and Raquel are going to go out against them a fair bit. That line's pretty good. Nothing to ride home about. Pittsburgh goaltending has not been good. So I wish that Buffalo 1 was fully correlated on the power play, but maybe I feel like with Peterka back, if their power play gets off to an 0-2 start, something like that, they kind of just load the unit again. Not that this is a great power play matchup, but this is a pretty good 5-on-5 matchup. I don't mind Thompson, Tuck, Peterka here at 15.6% and 17K. We'll have to wait and see what the depth looks like because does Zach Benson slide in next to Dylan Cousins or do they move up, Peyton Krebs, something like that? We'll have to wait and see, but Cousins and Quinn should be together as a filler. I don't mind them. They are coming in with negative leverage, but they are very cheap, so I don't mind that. On the Pittsburgh side, you have Pittsburgh 1 of Crosby, Rust, and Beauvillier at 16.6 with 16.2% top stack and 15.4% ownership, so a little bit cheaper, a little bit higher top 2 stack, and a tiny bit less ownership than Buffalo 1. I like them. I don't love them. I kind of prefer Pittsburgh 2. They just have a longer sample of being decent. Raquel has been shooting the puck this season so far, which has been an issue in the past for him. Bunting, obviously a shooter. You get Malkin on the top power play unit. This is a good matchup, 5-on-5. Let's not pretend Buffalo's anything special defensively. They're not. While I think Pittsburgh 1 is fine, I think if I'm going to play Pittsburgh, it'll be some form of Pittsburgh 2. I won't say no if you want to be like, hey, Josh, should I play Pittsburgh 1? Says, yeah, it's fine. But Buffalo 1 for me, Buffalo 1 and Pittsburgh 2 for me, but Pittsburgh 1, obviously fine.
Yeah, I'll start on the Pittsburgh side. Penguins are an interesting team because when they were at their best, like 6-7 years ago, like top of the conference, winning cups, that type of thing, they had a pretty good third line. Obviously, you remember the HBK line with Hagelin, Bonino, and Kessel, but they had a third line that was productive. The third line that they have now isn't quite the same. Lars Eller, Puljujarvi, and Drew O'Connor. But Eller and Puljujarvi have actually looked pretty good to start this season, dominating the shot attempts, over the last couple of years. Puljujarvi was there towards the end of the season. They don't get a ton of ice time. At best, you're hoping for like 12 to 14 minutes. But there's not a lot on the Buffalo side that scares me. And the other thing about Pittsburgh's bottom 6 is that they've only played 1 home game. This is when they got pasted by the Rangers. But they sent out their 4th line quite a bit against Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. If they do that again here tonight, that's going out against Tage Thompson and company. And Nola Chari's not that bad as a defensive center. He's kind of like a lower end Nick Dowd. We talked about him yesterday on the show. Whether that line can, take top line duties, shutdown duties at home for an entire season, I think is another question. But I do think it's interesting that they're basically going to, if they hold to what they did in the first game of the season, they're going to keep their top six away from Buffalo's top line, which I'm not sure how that's going to work out because Buffalo's top line, when Peterka was there last season, like they were the definition of trading chances. 134 shot attempts for and against per 60 minutes as a trio with Peterka there over the last couple seasons. That is some high-paced hockey. I'm not going to say play the Pittsburgh fourth line, but it is interesting that they're going to Pittsburgh might outthink themselves into tougher matchups by sending them out against Ryan McLeod and Jordan Greenway and Dylan Cousins. And like even Cousins and Benson, assuming Benson is in on the second line, like Benson's not a great offensive player yet, but he's pretty good defensively. Like that's the reason he's been able to stay in the lineup. So like, it seems like one of those things where Pittsburgh might galaxy brain themselves into the tougher matchups for the top six, which, not ideal. Pittsburgh's power play, they're leaving Letang and Carlson on the top unit. So you only have Malkin by himself on the top power play on that second line. You have both Crosby and Rust on the top line. Like, I kind of do like Pittsburgh one here. I don't like that Pittsburgh might galaxy brain themselves and put Crosby into a tougher matchup, but Pittsburgh one is looking at the last couple of years without Jake Gensel on the line. 75 shot attempts per 60, 11.6 high danger chances per 60, 3.7 goals per 60, shooting under 10%. So they're not getting lucky. They're just finishing on the chances that they do get. Like Rust and Crosby are still pretty good offensively together. There is a fair bit of ownership on them here tonight, but it's nothing crazy. It's like 15.4%, right? And Anthony Beauvillier, like, we're not huge fans of him, but one thing he can do, like when he was at his best, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, there was like a 4-season stretch there where he was a pretty good finisher. He wasn't getting a ton of minutes, so he didn't have big goal totals, but he was a good finisher in the minutes that he got. Like, I'm kind of interested to see how that line plays out long term. The way that I'm probably building tonight, they're probably going to be priced out for me, but I think I do like Pittsburgh one the best. Like Crosby and Russ are probably going to play around 20 minutes. That second line is going to get a fair bit less. Raquel being on the second line certainly helps Malkin, but I just really like the offensive ability of Crosby and Rust. There's a reason why they project so highly, even though Beauvillier is not on the power play with them. So on the Pittsburgh side, it's Pittsburgh 1. I think Pittsburgh 3 is kind of interesting. If you are using like a super expensive Colorado stack, like that's basically the only instance where I think you'd want to at least like 2-man that Pittsburgh third line. But that third line, I think, could be good for the Penguins long term. On the Buffalo side, I guess like it all depends on JJ Peterka, right? He won't be on the top power play unit even if he's back, and that's a problem. But that line was really good offensively over the last couple of seasons together. 4.5 goals per 60 minutes, shooting 11.5%. Maybe the shooting percentage is a little high, but they can be in the high threes at 5-on-5 if they keep up that volume. Tuck, even though he's on the top power play unit, is probably still going to play 19, 20 minutes. Tage Thompson probably be around 20 minutes. I'm definitely not worried about the Pittsburgh goaltending by any stretch of the imagination. And, maybe that Pittsburgh fourth line can hold down shutdown duties, but until I see a larger sample from Glass, Hayes, and Achari, I'm not going to assume they're a great shutdown line at this point. So that Buffalo top line, 15.6% top two, 15.6% ownership. In a nutshell, I probably prefer Pittsburgh's top line over Buffalo's. They're at similar prices for the sole reason that you get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play unit instead of just Tage Thompson by himself on the Buffalo top line. I do think Buffalo 1 is certainly perfectly fine here, but it is the Pittsburgh top line that I like best. I think Buffalo 2 is kind of interesting, particularly like assuming it's Benson, Quinn, and Cousins, because Cousins is going to get a lot of ice time. He's been playing a lot early in the season. Top power play minutes. He's been shooting a lot. I think he has 16 shots already in 4 games on the season, yet to score, but he's getting a lot of volume off. I kind of like the Buffalo second line as a filler better than anything else on that side, and probably Pittsburgh 1 on overall in this game. And I think Pittsburgh 3 is playable only in Colorado lineups.
Yeah, I mean, Eller and Puljujarvi have been pretty hot to start this season, but, we'll see. We have the LA Kings going into Toronto. The Maple Leafs have, I don't know what their total is because I didn't do the run sheet because it's 4 games late.
Kings are at 2.8 and Toronto's at 3.6.
Cliffy's always, his back hurts from carrying me. Leafs status quo looks like Tavares is going to be back, but Nylander is game time decision, I think. Doesn't have the amulet. As it stands, it's Matthews, Marner, Nyes, Tavares, Robertson, Holmberg, and then Pacioretty, Domi, McMahon. We don't know the LA lineup, but they didn't make any changes after in-game when they lost to the Sens 8-7, and they were running Kempe, Kopitar, Laferriere. More Deneau, say that 5 times fast. Fiala, Byfield, and Fogle. This is a pretty good spot for Toronto here, especially if Ottawa can hang an 8 spot on you. Toronto probably could hang a 21 spot on you. Positive leverage on the Leafs top line here, Matthews, Marner, Nyes. They haven't had the results in the box score yet, but the underlying numbers are there. It's coming. Obviously, you can't fit them with with Colorado. But Toronto 1's one of my favorite plays on the slate here tonight. We'll obviously get to Boston, Colorado in a second. Matthews, Marner, Nyes coming in under 20% projected. I didn't think that would be the case with them still being under 20K. I do really like them. They'll probably go out against Kempe, Kopitar, Laferriere a fair bit. And, it's been probably 3 seasons now since Kopitar has been a good shutdown center. That line's not awful defensively, but it's probably about league average. And if you're going to give Matthews and Marner a league average defensive line in front of them, they're going to beat them. So I do really like Matthews, Marner, Nyes. We'll have to wait and see on Nylander for the rest of the lineup. But I don't mind taking a stab on Domi, Pacioretty, 2-man. If Nylander's out, it's going to be – I don't know why I keep wanting to say Nylander. Probably because I'm ready for the Nylander show. But I don't mind taking a stab on Domi, Pacioretty. They're kind of all gas, no brakes. And Pacioretty probably slides onto power play 1, and they're super cheap. On the Kings side – I don't have a ton of interest in the Kings here tonight. It would probably be Byfield and Fiala. If I did, they're also pretty cheap. That's probably where I go. I think Kopitar, Kempe, Laferriere is fine from the standpoint in MME that they're fully correlated and the Leafs penalty kill sucks. But going into Matthews and Marner at 5-on-5 is not ideal because, Matthews and Marner are very good offensively, but they're also pretty good defensively. Now, you can say the Leafs blue line and goaltenders suck, and you'd probably be right. So, it's more of an MME play for me. In single entry, I'd probably consider a Fiala one-off or a 2-man with Byfield, but this is a Toronto 1 game for me.
Yeah. I suppose one thing we should note is that it looks like Joel Edmondson is out for tonight.
Having a baby.
Having a baby. Congrats to them. The reason I bring that up is because if you look at Mikey Anderson's numbers at 5-on-5 over the last couple seasons when he's playing with any defenseman except for Doughty, they are a lot worse. I'm talking about high danger chances go up between 20 and 25%. It's a lot. And, we have seen the Kings struggle a little bit at 5-on-5 so far this season. I mean, a little bit. anybody that watched the game on Monday would probably say more than a little bit. But like Mikey Anderson so far through this first few games here, 36% shot attempt share. Like that's Roman Polak in 2015 level numbers. You know what I mean? Like it is bad. And I'm going to assume that they're, going to break up that Spence and Anderson pairing, and they might have to move Burrows to the top pair, honestly, maybe even Clark. But like the Kings defense core has been a bit of a mess, and you take Edmonton out, and I assume Andreas Englund comes in, and Andreas Englund, he's fine defensively, but he brings nothing offensively. And when you bring nothing offensively, the plays die on your stick, and it gives the opponent more opportunities to regroup. So, I really do like the Toronto side here. You talk about their top two stack percentage and their ownership, 27% top two stack, 20% ownership. I wish Nyes was still in the top power play unit, but you can't get everything that you want. And Nyes is still probably going to play a fair bit. Even without the power play time. Like he was getting like 18 minutes even without the power play time, and at his price, like that's more than acceptable. And Nyes is a guy, you and I are both fairly high on him. We think like could be, no, he's not going to be like a 35, 40 goal scorer this season, but he could be like a 25 goal, 55, 60 point guy with a fair amount of shot volume. And at his price, like that's perfectly fine. I really do like Toronto 1 as well. I'm not concerned about any of the defensive matchups on the Kings side. The Kings penalty kills certainly didn't look great on Monday. And it's something that you and I talked about over the weekend. The Kings had by far the highest save percentage on the penalty kill last season. Like it wasn't even close to the second best team. And those types of things tend to regress. And we've seen that early so far this season with the penalty kill save percentage at 810. Now, I think it's going to come up from there, but I don't think this is going to be the same penalty killing group as last year. And I saw an important note about the Toronto power play. Oliver Ekman-Larsson now running the top power play for Toronto. One thing I saw, I think it was Jack Hahn, who is a guy that dissects like offensive systems and defensive systems and what coaches are doing and what players are doing on the ice and stuff like that. What he talked about was that Morgan Rielly's fairly one track coming through the neutral zone. It's like as soon as he's crossed his own blue line with the puck on the power play and made a decision, that's what he's going with, come hell or high water. And it kills a lot of plays because it's easily telegraphed. And OEL doesn't do that. So I think we might see the Toronto power play kind of turn themselves around. I really do like Toronto 1 here. There's aside from Colorado, there's a reason why they're at the top of the board for top two stack percentage. I don't think we're going to be alone in playing them, but yeah, I agree with you. I really do like the Leafs top line here. As for the second line, like it totally depends on Nylander. I really wouldn't have a lot of interest in a Tavares, Robertson, Pontus, Holmberg line. That's not
just a mix of like weird, like what I can't remember what I was going to say, but it's just weird.
Like Holmberg's a fine player, don't get me wrong, but he's like Nola Chara we talked about in the Pittsburgh game. Like he's not going to bring much offensively. He's good defensively, and that's about it. Like it just doesn't bring much offense. And considering the Tavares line has struggled to score since the start of last season, I don't think he's going to help. So I would probably, as a stack, I would probably bypass them completely and just go down to Toronto 3. If it is Domi, Pacioretty, and McMahon is probably one of the most underrated finishers in the NHL. He's had high shot volume and limited minutes already. Max Domi, we slag him all the time, but he's still a really good playmaker. That's why he keeps his NHL job, is because he is a high-end playmaker. Max Pacioretty, if Nylander's out, Pacioretty is going to be on the top power play unit. So I think Toronto 3 is certainly in the mix. And like they're coming in over leverage, but it's not that bad. Like 1.9% top two stack, 4.8% ownership. That's not that bad for a slate this small. So Toronto 1 by far my favorite line on the Leafs side. I think Toronto 3 is in play, particularly if you're one of those like McKinnon, Rantanen, and McCarr stackers coming out of the Colorado game. On the Los Angeles side, like, do we have faith in the Toronto penalty kill?
No.
No, because like
No.
you mentioned the last time they were on the show, they were bottom 10 penalty kill in the league last year. So far this year, they've given up the 8th most shot attempts of any penalty kill in the league on a per minute basis. The goals against haven't been horrific, but fringe bottom 10. Like this penalty kill may not have improved at all. That Kings top line is perfectly correlated. Brant Clark, like I watched that whole game, he does look like he can run a top power play. How he fares at even strength, I think, is a different, beast entirely. But especially with Edmondson out, they're different-handedness. But Spence is struggling. Like this might be the game where Clark, plays 21 minutes because they really need him to. So especially where that Kings top line is coming in with almost no ownership, and they are perfectly correlated, and the Toronto penalty kill isn't that good. I don't mind Kings 1 here, but honestly, even including the price discrepancy and all the additional ownership and all that, I would much rather play the Toronto top line than the Kings top line. I'm with you, where if I play anything, it's Fiala, Byfield, and Fogle. I feel most confident that Byfield and Fiala are going to play 17-plus minutes. Fogel's been shooting a ton already this season, leads the team in shot attempts per minute at 5-on-5. That's what he does. And, the Toronto goaltending's been pretty good to start the season. You gotta hand it to them. But I think Fiala, Byfield, and Fogle, if you're not playing Colorado, makes a nice, fine filler stack. If anything on the Kings side is probably the top line. I want to take advantage of that Toronto penalty kill, but it is Toronto 1 I like best in this game.
Yeah. Agreed. Boston heading into Colorado. This is a very important game. They're all important. There's 4 games, but this one feels a little bit more important because there's 2 lines over 20K. You have Boston 1, David Pastrnak, Elias Lindholm, Pavel Zacha up to 20,400, fully correlated. You have Colorado 1, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Ross the Boss, Colton, 22,200, fully correlated. Like, I am not an Elias Lindholm guy. And that line at even strength has not looked very good. So, like, I still think Boston 1 is a pretty good play here tonight. They're getting half the ownership of Colorado 1. Colorado 1 is decimated by injuries. Not only offensively, they're missing Devin Taves again tonight. Makar, maybe Cliffy will have the answer to this, but like Makar only played 22 minutes after Taves got hurt. I don't know.
No, without Taves. Taves didn't even start the game.
Yeah, without Taves. Were they using the bottom pair more? Or?
Yeah, the Ludwig Sam Malinsky pair played 18 minutes each, and I mentioned in our Discord there's 3 different times during the game where the Colorado third pair got double shifted, and Makar sat on the bench for like 3 or 4 minutes.
Jared Bednar, man. I still think Makar is a really good play here tonight. I think that kind of puts Boston 1 into play. They're fully correlated. The Colorado goaltending has been atrocious to start this season. It's been so bad. It's like the Hurricanes from last October. Like, it's just atrocious. So while Pastrnak, Lindholm, and Zacha just haven't gotten on the same page yet, this is a pretty good get right. The issue is the price, right? $20,400. Why pay $20,400 when you can pay $900 less for Toronto 1, or pay $1,800 more for Colorado 1 at home against this Boston team? Swayman hasn't looked good. He's still basically in his first week of camp. Joonas Korpisalo looked like trash against the Panthers. They're decimated with injuries offensively. It's the second line's Middlestat, Wood, Ritchie. Like, that's not awful. Callum Ritchie looks pretty good to start this season. So, but this is I love Colorado 1 here. That Pastrnak, Lindholm, Zacha line has not been good defensively to start this season. Their goaltending has not been great. 22,200 with a 42.7% top 2 stack and 28% projected ownership. Like, yeah, you'll find a McKinnon or a Rantanen 35-40% in single entry, but I do really, really like Colorado 1. I much prefer them to Boston 1. I'm only mentioning Boston 1 as a nice GP or as a nice MME play just because Colorado's been bad defensively. They've been bad in net, and David Pastrnak is David Pastrnak. So, like, that's fine. I don't even mind, like, if you're going to power play stack the Leafs or do something else expensive, that's probably the only other option besides playing Colorado 1. If you power play stack the Leafs or power play stack the Bruins, I don't mind a 2-man of like Middlestad, Ritchie, Middlestad, Wood, something like that. Middlestad's on the top power play. He's been playing 17, 18 minutes. I don't really have much faith in the Boston middle six defensively, so I don't mind that, but this is a Colorado 1 game for me.
Yeah, Boston's top line has not looked good to start the season, as you said. 1 high danger chance for and 7 against in their time together at 5-on-5. That's not very good.
Bad spot to get right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is Colorado's goaltending's at 753 to start this season.
That's almost impossible.
It's preposterous. Like I was telling you the other day, if they're at 850, which in a full season would be the worst team save percentage in modern NHL history. If they're at 850, they'd have 8 fewer goals against in their games so far this season. It is absolutely absurd just how bad that they've been. And the thing is sometimes you go back and you see maybe there are defensive breakdowns and, those things happen during a game. But I was telling you about that game against the Islanders. The first goal against was a wraparound from Anders Lee where the goalie was hugging the post and it trickled over his pad on a rebound. But his pad was against the post, but he wasn't. The second goal against, he came about 30 feet out of the net and missed a poke check. And then the third goal against, he missed a poke check again, and it was a wide open net. Like all 3 goals were squarely on the goalie's shoulders. And he's not this bad. It's just a question of when does he start to get better? And maybe it's like Antti Raanta, where it's like he's not going to get better, or like he only gets a little bit better, but not enough to where they can't keep more than 4 pucks out of the net every game. That's what worries me about fading Boston here. It's like I'm not, not having Taves hurts. Obviously, all the wingers missing hurts. I don't think Colorado is necessarily even that bad of a team with all those injuries. I just worry that their goaltenders are going to let in 1 out of every 4 shots that they see. And if they do that, like Boston only needs 15 shots on goal to break the slate. Like it sucks. But I think your point about the pricing is the right one here, is that they're coming in more expensive than Toronto 1. Now they are perfectly correlated, and that has been the difference. It's not as if like the Boston power play has been great to start the season or anything like that. The other issue I have, 2 issues. One, that top line's getting 19 minutes, but that's not a ton of time, right? And a lot of that ice time's coming from the power play. They're not getting a ton of even strength. Boston's doing a reasonably good job at spreading out the ice time. I saw somebody mention Boston 4 in the chat. I don't think I'm not going to say don't play 4th liners because it is only a 4-game slate. Happened the other day where who was it? John Beecher got on the board. Mark Kastlik, I think
3-point bonus.
Yeah. So like I wouldn't expect that to happen again. But I think, that matchup certainly favors Boston. If you do want a one-off Kastlik or Beecher, that's not something I'm doing, but I don't think there should be, that's not something I'm completely against. I just think I'm with you. Like I would rather just play Toronto at home than Boston on the road, and just absolutely pray that Georgiev can save even like 85% of the shots. You know what I mean? And heaven help us if he gets to like 90%. That would be heaven sent. That's just kind of where I'm sitting, is like I'm just praying that Georgiev doesn't completely suck once again. Like that's just basically it. So I'm out on Boston. Should note they did change up their lines a bit at morning skate. Max Jones, Riley Tufte, Matt Poitras, third line, Trent Frederick, moving up to the second line in place of Connor Geeky or Morgan Geeky. I will say I don't mind Trent Frederick as a player. Like, for one, like, he actually likes to shoot. There is some versatility to his game. Let's say him and Marchand have played reasonably well together over the last couple seasons. That Colorado second line has just been getting absolutely throttled so far this season. Middlestad, Ritchie, and whomever they have on the left wing. So I honestly think if anything on the Boston side, it would be the second line, especially with Frederick up there now. But I'm not in so much on Boston. It's more on the Colorado side. Colorado top line, like, I looked at their numbers last season with Lehkonen, just for this reason, is I think Ross Colton and Arturi Lehkonen, at least offensively, are comparable players, at least to the impact that they can bring to the team, if not necessarily in their style. And with Lehkonen there last year, 15.4 high danger shot attempts per 60 minutes, 7.4 against, more than double the opponent, 4.7 goals per 60. Colton played 21 minutes in the last game. All three guys are on the top power play unit. Boston's penalty kill has been good, but not great. We know how good the Colorado power play can be. It's, Jeremy Swayman may not be starting. They had an optional morning skate today, and Swayman stayed on for extra work, which usually indicates he's going to be the backup and that Joonas Korpisalo was resting because he's starting tonight. So this isn't the defensive Boston team of 3 and 4 years ago. It might be Korpisalo in net. Colorado is at home where they were so dominant last year. I really do like the Colorado top line. I still prefer Toronto a little bit ahead of them, but I think Colorado 1 is certainly in play. It's really the only line that I would full stack. Other than that, it'd be, one off in Casey Middlestad, I think is fine. He's going to play over 20 minutes. One off in Logan O'Connor is fine. He gets decent ice time and likes to shoot and can drive the play. Miles Wood, certainly, like, one-offs I think are fine. The only Colorado stack I'm interested in is top line.
Yeah. Decisions. Let's get to the Daily Deposit Frostback Bowl. We have the Utah Soakers heading into Anaheim to face Los Patos, the Ducks. The Ducks, man. I hate that the Ducks have 3 playable lines. I mean, maybe they're not all playable tonight, but, like, where do you go? You know what I mean? Like, they spread out the ice time. They're going full Seattle, and you never go full Seattle. Let's start with the Utah side. We were talking about this game before the show. You were talking to me about the ice time, about the ice time of Genther and Cooley, which is a concern. I didn't have a ton of interest in that line anyway. I'll let you hit on that a little bit more in depth. I think a one-off Dylan Genther is fine from the top power play time. The line that I have the most interest in, obviously, is the Keller Schmaltz Hayton line. They're fully correlated. Anaheim last year took a Brinks truckload of penalties. That really hasn't changed. Their penalty kill isn't great. That hasn't changed. So, yeah, I do really like the Soakers top line here tonight. After that, it gets a little bit wishy-washy. I don't really like the minutes of McBain, Cooley, Genther. Don't really like the third and fourth lines, the way they're put together. They really need Bukestad back. I think when that happens, I think you'll see a more ideal spread in ice time for DFS. So it would be the top line or bust for me outside of a Genther one-off. The Anaheim side is where it gets a little bit feisty. You have the Gauthier, Carlson, Killorn line coming in at 10-7, negatively leveraged. McTavish, Zegras, Fabry at 9,900, negatively leveraged. Vetrano, Terry, Strome, 12,500, negatively leveraged. Not shocking because you can fit them with Colorado. You can fit them with anyone, really. Like, I don't have an issue with the Gauthier Carlson line. they would probably be third in the rankings for me in terms of Ducks lines. I think my favorite line would be Strome, Terry, Vetrano. I know the power play correlation isn't great there. There's one on the first unit, one on the second unit, one on no units. But they at least have a history of being good. It's like the back of the baseball card adage, right? Like they at least have the back of the baseball card. You know what you kind of expect from them. Vetrano's coming off a great season. He had 37 goals. Terry, I know some people are down on Terry, whatever. I still like him. Strome, listen, he's never going to be a top six center, but he is serviceable on that line. So I do like the Vetrano Terry Strome line the best. I don't have issue with McTavish and Zegras just because those two together have great offensive numbers. And it is Utah we're talking about here. Durzi's out. Sergachev may play, 47 minutes here tonight. That's a little bit of hyperbole, but he's going to play a lot. So on the Utah side would be the top line. On Anaheim, for me, it would be the Strome line 1, McTavish line 2, and then the Leo Carlson Gauthier line 3.
Yeah, I'll start on the Anaheim side. The ice time has been pretty even, as you mentioned, for the Ducks, which that's not necessarily what you want to see if you're stacking that line. I would also say it's just been a couple games. We'll see how that works out. I do think they're kind of in that mode right now. It's like, let's see who plays well for 2 weeks before we start giving anybody too much ice time. If Carlson, Killorn, and Gauthier play extremely well and start scoring a little bit, I can see them playing 18 to 20 minutes a night, maybe Gauthier a little less as a rookie. But I think it makes sense kind of from where that franchise is for what they're doing, but it is frustrating from a DFS standpoint. One thing I will say is, that top line of Carlson, Killorn, and Gauthier, you mentioned how much Gauthier was shooting in the preseason, is one of the more shot happy players in the NHL. In the preseason, only 2 games in, but 10 shot attempts in 2 games. That's pretty good. If you can do that over a full season, you could probably push close to 200 shots, which would be excellent for a rookie. So good start for him. Utah, I'm not sold on yet. As a team, don't get me wrong, I do like them as a team. It's not that I don't like them as a team or anything like that. I thought that they would probably push close to a playoff spot this year. I don't really see a whole lot separating them from Nashville, if I'm being honest. We'll see how things play out, but that's just kind of the way.
Build, right? Like good top 6, bad penalty kill. They're similar.
Yeah, they are. Defensively, they've been okay to start the season at 5-on-5. The penalty kill has, to say the least, the penalty kill has been a little bit of a problem for Utah. They've given up 19 power plays in 4 games. They're not going to keep giving up nearly 5 power plays a game to the opponent, but they were top 5 in power play opportunities given to the opponent last season. Problem is Anaheim's had a pretty bad power play for a couple of years now. I hope that with Zellweger and Mintyukov both healthy, Zegras is in the lineup, McTavish and Terry and all those guys are all healthy. Gauthier and Carlson is a year older now. Hopefully they can start to turn around the power play. That was so bad, last year, the year before. Go ahead and take your pick. It just hasn't been good for a while. Hopefully they can start to turn that around. First couple of games haven't really shown anything yet. Hasn't been very promising. They failed to score. They're not generating a lot. But I think they could get a ton of opportunities here tonight, and all you can really ask for is opportunity. I don't mind that third line, Vetrano, Terry, and Strome. Over the last few years, 3.3 goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, shooting around 9%, so they're not getting lucky or anything like that. Terry on the top power play, Strome and Vetrano on the second power play. I assume they're not going to see a lot of the Sergachev pairing. And, with Durzi out of the lineup, John Marino's still hurt. Those are 2 of their top 3 defensemen now out of the lineup. So you're basically at Sergachev and then, Ian Cole, Mike Kesselring. There's just not a lot there, right? So I do like that Anaheim, Vetrano, Terry, Strome line. They are the top line by top 2 stack probability, 5.5%, 9.9% ownership. I think that's fine on a slate like this. I think if I was going to go to another line, it'd be Carlson, Killorn, and Gauthier. For this reason, I think Leo Carlson already at this point of his career might be the best offensive play driver on the team. He is an absolute wizard generating offense through the neutral zone. He's just not good at finishing plays yet, but it's one of those things like if they get a fortunate night, score twice on 8 shots or 7 shots or something like that, they can certainly do it. So if anything, Carlson, Killorn, and Gauthier would be my backup, but it's Vetrano, Terry, and Strome that I prefer in this game. On the Utah side, I worry about the ice time, man. 14:45 for Genther to start the season. Cooley around 15 minutes. A lot of it is because they are taking so many penalties, but until they stop taking so many penalties, it's going to be hard for those guys to get a lot of ice time. I prefer Keller and Schmaltz and Hayton. They don't play the top power play or top penalty kills either, but they are perfectly correlated on the power play. We know how many power play opportunities. Anaheim gave up 4 power play opportunities per game last season, by far the most in the NHL. So far this season, they're only at 3.5, only played a couple games though. This thing could turn it around. I'll take the perfectly correlated top line from Utah. Other than that, it'd be, one-offing Lawson Krause, 2-man stacking, Genther and Cooley, those types of things from the Utah side. I'm not terribly interested in stacking their depth. I'd be all about attacking the Anaheim penalty kills. So the top line of Keller, Schmaltz, and Hayton, throw in Genther if you want or something like that. But that's where I am. So the Strome line on the Anaheim side, the Keller line on the Utah side. I do think the Carlson line is certainly in play for Anaheim.
Yep. Let's get to defensemen here. Top of the board, Cale Makar, Rasmus Dahlin, Charlie McAvoy. I think they're all playable. Makar, obviously. Dahlin, he's been playing 23 minutes. The power play is still a bit wonky. I just don't really like the Pittsburgh goaltending. Charlie McAvoy, from the sheer thing of, Colorado's goaltending sucks, and he's on the top power play. His peripherals are okay. He has 10 shots and 5 blocks in 4 games. Not what you really want to see for a $6,200 player, but it's just matchup based here. And then of the guys above 5K, it's Sergachev that stands out. And there's obviously a couple guys in the lower tier that really stand out, and I'll let Cliffy get to those.
Yeah, I'll just say I do like Dahlin here tonight. He only has 5 shots in 4 games, but his shot attempt rate is actually higher than it is last season. Problem is, fewer than 20% of his shot attempts taken have landed on net. Over the last couple of years, he's been close to a 50% defenseman in that regard. This is a guy who honestly could have probably 12 shots on goal already at this point in the season if he was closer to career norms. So I do like Dahlin again. Sergachev at 5K, mercifully his price has come up, but like you said, that guy might end up playing 30 minutes here tonight. And where he's on the top power play unit, again, we don't like that Ducks penalty kill. So Sergachev, I think Letang is also in play. As long as he stays on the Pittsburgh top power play unit, that gives him additional DFS value that he really didn't have last season, even though he still had a good year last year. Cheap guys, obviously OEL running the top power play for Toronto. Mintyukov running the second power play for Anaheim. He's going to play a lot more minutes than Zellweger. I worry Zellweger is going to be in that Adam Bachvist range of 13 to 15 minutes is kind of the problem. But, if you want to play Zellweger with, your Carlson and Gauthier stack or something like that, I think that's fine. But Mintyukov might play 10 more minutes than Zellweger does here tonight. I'll say Gavrikov as well. He played a lot of minutes for Los Angeles in that last game. Edmonton is out, who is a left shot defenseman. They don't play Andreas Englund that much when he does dress. Gavrikov might be at 23, 24, 25 minutes here tonight. Brant Clark and Owen Power, both on their respective top power play units, both really cheap. So there's 3 guys under, I think, 3,500 or less here tonight that are running their team's top power play unit. And like I said, I think with Edmonton out and Spence struggling, I think Clark might be in for a season high in ice time here tonight. We'll see what happens. Sam Malinsky, Played 18 minutes in that last game for Colorado, running power play 2 for whatever's that's worth. He's stone mint price if you need a mint price defenseman. And I'll mention Mike Kesselring again, just because they're missing Dursey, because they're missing Marino. They're going to have to play somebody. I thought Kesselring's looked good so far this season. He's cheap as well.
Yep. Let's get to the goalies. I'll keep it quick. If I am spending up, it will be for Anthony Stolarz. If I'm spending down, it's Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And in the mid-range, it will be Connor Ingram.
I mean, I have 3 goalies on my list. It was Stolarz, Swayman, and Ingram. It doesn't look like Swayman's going to be starting, so I'm basically down to Stolarz and Ingram. Yes, UPL is fine. He's struggling a little bit to start the season, but he's only 7,200, saves a lot of money. So I guess UPL as the cheapest goalie on the board is in play. Pittsburgh's not a brutal matchup by any stretch, but Ingram's only $400 more expensive, and I think I'd rather probably play Ingram on the road in Anaheim than Buffalo on the road in Pittsburgh. And yes, but Stolarz is my number 1 goalie on the board.
New Jersey's own. Any interest in Dostal? Yeah, I don't mind him, but I prefer Ingram.
Yeah, I think he's fine. The one reason, I played Dostal when he got a shutout. I'm not against playing him. My issue is that I'm still not certain about Anaheim's discipline or penalty kill, and you don't want a bunch of high danger shots on the PK coming at your goalie when you roster him in DFS. That's he's not that cheap either, right? He's 70. He's 78. He's more expensive than Ingram. I'd rather just play Ingram.
Yep. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
You know what? I'm going to go to Buffalo. I had this guy written down. I was kind of waffling a little bit, but I really do like that line here tonight. I'm going to go with Dylan Cousins.
Going Ross the boss. Mr. Colton, come on down.
I mean, might be the biggest Ross Colton fan on the planet.
Besides Mrs. Colton, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to her, so how do we know? But yeah, he's going to get a ton of ice time, so I like that.
Yep. We will be back tomorrow and Saturday. I appreciate over 200 of you joining in with us for this 4-game slate. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Make sure to, if you're in the Discord, check in with Daily Deposit Frostback, who he's playing in net, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Good luck tonight, everybody.